Before we get started this week, I want to say a big thank you for all your views, comments, likes and most of all donations to the big comic relief haircut last week. Me and Leo really appreciated it.
Thank you!
We raised a mammoth £860, which was miles clear of the £500 that I was hoping for. So thank you so much. There is still time to donate if you want to. The link is just below this video. I did, as promised, keep my red spikes for a few days. Restyled each morning by Leo. I had to wash it out every night, otherwise, it would ruin the bed. So this is us on Sunday. We went down to the market where Leo interviewed a few stall holders to see what they thought about his handiwork.
So, Mr. Olive Man,
Yes.
how do you feel about Dan's new hair?
It looks absolutely great and I really like it, seriously.
And the lovely juice lady even gave us an extra donation. This is us heading to school on Monday morning, where one of Leo's friends was so impressed with his hairdressing skills that he asked him how much it would cost to give him the exact same hairstyle. Leo said it would be £10, but he did later confide to me that he might drop it to £4 if his friend couldn't save up all the money, although his mum gave me the impression that she probably wouldn't want his hair done like mine. And then on Tuesday, here's me showing off my cool hair to a few work colleagues on a Zoom call. Now, without the styling, it looks like this, which is fine. It will grow. For no particular reason, I thought I'd tell you some of the oddest tales that have happened to me during my time working in television. It all started in 1998 and I was working as a runner in a TV studios in South London. I just made a lot of tea and coffee and filled a lot of fridges with a lot of Coca-Cola. But I absolutely loved it. On my first day, I saw Queen's Brian May having a bit of lunch in the canteen. That was great. I got to know West Brom and England legend, the striker Jeff Astle, because fantasy football was being filmed there during the World Cup that year, and he was one of the nicest men I ever met. A little bit later on, I made several guest appearances on the now defunct tech satellite TV channel .tv, pretending to be taught how to use Word and Excel by a lovely presenter and writer called Richard Topping. And then there was this fantastic director who I encountered. He was directing Channel 4 quiz show 15 to 1 at the time. His name was Peter. He was a fabulously flamboyant and eccentric old director who used to direct The Muppet Show in the 70s at LWT. He was wonderful, and he used to walk around wearing this enormous, thick gold mayoral chain every day. Just unbelievable person. It was a fantastic time. Still at the same TV studios, soon after I got there, I think it was around the autumn, I got there in the summer, the production company that owned them managed to get a commission from Sky One to make an Oprah Winfrey style show hosted by the former Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson. There's a lot of fuss about this. There was a great deal of excitement. In the end, it didn't work out that well and only lasted a series. But anyway, at the time, it was all very exciting. There was a huge buzz at the studio. And there was a lot of fuss about how we were going to serve her tea. And there was a lot of thought went into it. What kind of cup should she have? A cup and saucer? What would she be used to? And eventually it was decided that instead of the normal studio mugs that we gave to everybody else, she should have a special bone china mug. So someone went out, don't know who, and found a very nice, elegant bone china mug, probably from Harrods or something, and that was placed in the kitchen. On the first day, as the runner, it was up to me to make her tea. I received instructions on exactly how she liked it. I do remember it was a kind of Earl Grey. So I made her tea, in the special bone china cup. And I then took it to her. She was in the middle of makeup. I had to duck under about 14 different hair and makeup people just to sort of, there you go, Your Majesty, give her the cup. And she was very nice actually, and she asked me my name, and she remembered my name for the rest of the time I was there. And I told her, and she took a sip. She said, "That's very nice, thank you very much." Now the producer, who also owned the production company, was so pleased by this because he was doing a lot of fawning over Sarah Ferguson. He then decided at that moment that no one else would be allowed to make Sarah's tea except for me. I and I alone knew how Sarah Ferguson liked her Earl Grey tea. So for the rest of the run of that show, didn't matter what I was doing, whenever she asked for a cup of tea, the call went out, I was buzzed on my little pager, and I would have to go to the kitchen, make sure I got a mug, make sure it was all washed, pristine, make her a cup of tea and deliver it. So there for about 6 weeks, I exclusively made Sarah Ferguson's tea whenever she was in the studio. A lot of the weirdest things that have happened to me while working in TV happened sort of earlier on in my career, and particularly when I was working on Harry Hill's TV shows. Quite often I had to dress up in various costumes. I did a panda, a Cyberman, a carrot, a badger, of course, a sloth, many others. I was very versatile. But I think the weirdest came when I was working on a series of Harry Hill's TV Burp. If you're a big fan of that, you'll remember that just before the break in every episode of TV Burp, he says, he asks which is better between two things that he's seen on TV that week.
There's only one way to find out.
And then these two things come out from either side of the stage and have a fight as it goes into the break. Now, quite often I would be one of those in the series that I did it. I think I was a toaster once, might have been a toaster, and a toaster v shark fight, possibly. But the weirdest one came when Harry was recording some stuff for Comic Relief, a few sketches and bits of TV Burp-like stuff for Comic Relief. And he decided that the fight for that little bit of stuff would be between a red nose, the Comic Relief red nose, which was basically a big red nose with legs, that was the costume for that, and Pudsey Bear from Children in Need. My friend Ben was the nose, and I got to play Pudsey Bear. Now, no one really gave us any direction on this, so me and Ben sat around beforehand and said, right, what are we going to do? We came up with this idea that wouldn't it be really funny if I ran on as Pudsey Bear, like, running on like that, and just sort of stood there, arms up, legs apart, and he would run on, and he's just literally a nose with legs. He runs on, doesn't look like he can win the fight, he hasn't got any arms, and just boots me right between the legs, right in the knackers. So that's what we did. It was brilliant. The audience went mad. It got such a great reaction, and then we kind of rolled around on the floor, and that was it. That was great. But there was a thing. The people from Comic Relief were there, and so were the people from Children in Need. And actually both of them were a little bit precious about their, understandably, about their sort of symbols. And they said nobody could be seen to win the fight, and we certainly couldn't see Pudsey Bear being kicked in the knackers. So we had to do it again, and without that. And it had to be a fair fight, so it looked like it was a draw. And both things are as good as the other. Yeah, that was a weird day. I seem to spend quite a lot of my early-ish career dressed up in various different weird costumes, but I think the oddest was the time I had to dress up as a prawn sandwich every night for a week on a show called Premier League All-Stars Extra Time. Premier League All-Stars was a show I was working on at the time, which was sort of just a big football tournament with ex-pros, celebrities and fans all playing against each other for Sky One. It was a really good show. Great fun. And the Extra Time was hosted by a young Jason Manford, who was sort of a comedy show looking at what happened each night on the show. And they decided they wanted a kind of anti-mascot, and so they built spent a little bit of money constructing a prawn sandwich costume, in honour of Roy Keane talking about the Prawn Sandwich Brigade at Old Trafford not making enough noise, and somehow I became the person that was going to wear the prawn sandwich. So there I was on TV, dressed as a prawn sandwich, every night for a week. It was very early days of Facebook, I remember, and I think I started a Facebook page for the poor prawn sandwich. He got about 26 followers, which in those days of Facebook was actually not too bad. And I do remember probably the lowest point was one night they decided that I should go in goal and they'd just whack penalties at me, which they did, just smash them at me, you know, just celebrities, and there were some freestyle footballers there who were really good, and they just smashed penalties at me. And eventually I think one of them knocked me over, and the presenter and comedian Kirsten O'Brien, who's absolutely lovely, decided that she'd start a bundle, and then she and the other celebrities and the football freestylers all bundled me while I was dressed as a prawn sandwich on live TV. Yeah, that was weird. This isn't a working in TV story, but it is related. Back in 2001, I was invited by Frank Skinner to go and watch the famous England, or what became the famous England v Greece World Cup qualifier at Old Trafford. You may remember that one. That's the famous David Beckham last-minute free kick to make it 2-2 and made sure that we qualified for the 2002 World Cup. And this was weird for me because I was 25 at the time, and 5 years earlier was 1996, specifically the summer of 96, which for anyone around about my age was a pretty seminal time. That year was incredible. The culture in Britain was amazing. The music was fantastic. We had a football tournament in this country. The Olympics were on. It was amazing. It was just a fantastic summer. And I was a massive fan of fantasy football. I loved it. And I was a huge fan of Frank Skinner and David Baddiel. And of course, one of the most famous moments from that tournament was after England would win games, they would play Three Lions at Wembley, and you'd see a pair of them in the stand dancing to their song. It became a sort of an anthem for England football fans, and still is to this day. It went to #1, didn't it? Only a year or two ago again. So this was incredible, because having watched that on TV and loved it, 5 years later, there I was at Old Trafford, kind of with them. David Beckham scores his last-minute goal, and we realise we've qualified for the World Cup. The match ends very soon after, and then they play Three Lions. And then there's me standing there, kind of reenacting those incredible moments from Euro 96 next to Frank Skinner and David Baddiel. It was one of the most surreal moments of my life, but it was absolutely brilliant. Unforgettable.